This is the Ted Wallachin Podcast. Brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And Halenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And now, here's Ted.
For nearly 60 years, Andy Donato has worked as a cartoonist and has brought laughter, anger, provoked dialogue, and occasionally a tear or two to his readers right across this great nation. He has a National Newspaper Award. He won an award for Best World Cartoon, has been honored by the Montreal Salon of Cartoonists. His political cartoons hang on the walls of the homes of politicians that he has personally skewered, and yet they still hang his cartoons on their walls. One of his pieces in particular is in the Library of Congress. It's titled The American Dream. It's a parody of the classic raising of the flag on Iwo Jima, but this cartoon depicts an American flag being inserted into the Ayatollah Khomeini, if I may put it that way. Andy Donato, how are you?
Very good. That's very polite.
Yeah.
Saying he shoved it up his.
Yeah.
The sun doesn't shine. Yeah.
Exactly. I remember when that first came out, I went, whoa, that's heavy. That's great. Yeah. But it was heavy. You must have got some flack for that, though.
No, I didn't get any at all. Really. You know, the nice part about it is all the American customs guys at the airport had buttons made, and they were all wearing the button with the cartoon on it. And that was kind of nice. Yeah.
That's great. So let's go back here before we talk about some of the works that you've done. You live in Scarborough. You were born and raised in Scarborough, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And you went to high school at Danforth Tech. Yeah,
because in those days, I had to go 1 year at R.H. King, it was called then, Scarborough Collegiate. And then the township would pay my way to go to Danforth Tech because they didn't have an art course up at Scarborough. So I went, they do later. Cedar Brae opened up and they had some very good art teachers there. So I went to Danforth Tech and did 3 years at Tech and then graduated from after 3 years.
When you started professionally, your first job was working, well, you worked at a grocery store to begin with, but I mean, in terms of an artist and as a creator.
I hated it.
You hated it.
Well, I hated working.
It was probably a great Italian grocery store too, wasn't it?
Working for my dad. You know what that's like, working for your dad.
Okay. Yeah, I did that too when I was growing up. Yeah, not your dad, my dad. Yeah. So your first job, creatively speaking, is at Eaton's, where you're working as a layout artist, a graphic artist.
Yeah, doing ads and stuff, yeah.
But was that something that you wanted to do? Did you see your career as being, I'm going to be Mr. Marketing advertising guy? Or did you see yourself as a painter or cartoonist?
No, I didn't. As a kid, I was always drawing comic strips. And then once I went to Danforth Tech and I could see all these, illustrations and posters and stuff they were doing, I got really hooked on advertising art, commercial art. And that was my whole life. I mean, just to get a job at Eaton's was, I thought, wow, I was the first guy in class to get a job. And I was just, $35 a week as well. I was so happy. And it went on from there.
Eaton's had a reputation as being a great place to work. They treated their employees well and they paid them fairly.
Yeah, they paid well, you had a small raise every year. They raised it. When I left there, I was earning $65 a week, which is, almost doubled my pay in 3 years. Yeah. It's not that bad.
No. So you then move your pen and ink and pencils and over to the Toronto Telegram newspaper.
Well, I went to a small freelance studio for over a couple of years, and then I broke out on my own. I wound up with a couple of about 3 good Jewish partners who said, "Come and work, and we'll have a company. Or you can be the artist. I'll be the printer. Jack will do the mailing. Moish will do the selling, and we'll make a lot of money." So I went with them. Only trouble is they were doing work. Most of their work was done for companies who sold stock called Consolidated Moose Pasture, Underground Airways, and they got closed down in one day by the Securities Commission, and I was out of work.
Yeah.
So then I applied for a job at the Telly, and took a while to get it, but I did get it.
But you got a job at the Telegram, not as a cartoonist, but rather as a graphic artist, and it took 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. 1964, I did my first cartoon on the flag debate.
Yeah, do you remember what it looked like?
That's what it started. Yeah, I still got it hanging in my studio.
So what did it, describe it to me?
Oh, what it was, the big controversy, was over the design of the Canadian flag.
Yeah.
So I did one, it was called A Compromise. So I had Rael Cowett, Diefenbaker, Peterson, and Tommy Douglas holding up a compromise flag, which had maple leaves on it, dollar signs, the Union Jack, everything you can think of was on that sign, on that flag.
And so then you move forward, and when do you become a full-time cartoonist at the Telegram?
Well, I did. What happened was that Al Beaton, who was the cartoonist, the regular cartoonist, passed away very quickly one day in 67, August, actually. And Bassett put me on a 3-month trial. I did it for 3 months, every day, like 5, 6 a week, actually. And J.D. McFarlane, the editor-in-chief, didn't like my work. So they sent me back, made me art director, and sent me back to doing editorial layout and stuff. And they hired Yardley Jones. Mm-hmm. So that was the way it was till the Telly closed. When the Sun started, Doug Creighton hired me to do 2 cartoons a week and be art director and do all the other stuff as well.
Speaking to Andy Donato, celebrated cartoonist, political cartoonist, when the Sun was first born, and had one of the greatest slogans during their advertising campaign was the little paper that grew. Yeah. The Telegram closed, and literally like a day or 2 days later, up comes the Sun. What did you think originally? Did you think this thing has a chance?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's a great story. We had nowhere else to go. Some guys were hired by the Star and whatnot. And we got together. We did it almost over a 2-week period. We had to launch the paper the day after the Telly closed, which we did on November the 1st, 71. After we sold about 126,000 papers first day, it settled down to about 65,000, and we could make money at 50,000. So we were already starting to make money. We had privately raised through Eddie Goodman about over $500,000, so we could go for a whole year. Doug Creighton came to me one day and said, I'll never forget the words, I think we have a tiger by the tail. And we did. It just took off. It just kept growing. 300,000 daily and 550,000 Sunday. So it was a very, very successful paper.
And you just celebrated its 50th birthday.
50 years, yeah.
Last year.
November the 1st, 50 years, yeah.
It's amazing. For most people, the Toronto Sun is considered to be a conservative newspaper. And yet you, as a political cartoonist, have, as I mentioned, used the word skewered politicians from the Liberals, the NDP, and the Conservative Party, plus other parties around the world. Yeah. Did anybody ever come to you during that period of time and say, have you ever thought about running for politics? Because you should really come run for us.
Oh, no.
No?
No, they never did.
I'm surprised because if I was the guy who's running the Liberals and you were tearing me a new ass every week in the paper, I'd be going, get this guy out of here. Bring him in.
Oh, isn't that funny? They never did. I know journalists like, Peter Worthington, ran for the Conservatives. He ran as independent in Riverdale riding, and others have done it. But I never had anybody approach me and say, You should be in politics. Thank God. I would have turned him down anyway. God, more fun at the other end.
Yeah. I mentioned it at the outset that you literally have some of your works where you're not very kind to people, but it's done in a humorous way. People call you and say, "Can I get a copy of that?"
Yeah, that happens. They get a lot of them in the earlier days would, phone and say, "Can I have an original?" Or I'd get a request from. I just had one recently. When Mel Lastman died, I just do one cartoon a week, and unfortunately, Bill Davis and Mel Lastman died on days that I don't do a cartoon, so I did two of them, one for each. And I did it for nothing because they don't pay you for anything like that anymore. They pay you for the one on Sunday, but that's all. But anyway, the one I did of Lastman, Paul Godfrey called the next day and said, "Can I get the original? I want to give it to Blaine Lastman."
Right.
So that was the last request I had for an original.
Were you surprised the first time a politician called you to ask for your work after you had skewered them again, to use that word?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was funny. The funniest one was Conrad Black. I had done a cartoon on him.
Now, see, that's not the name Conrad Black and funny don't belong in the same sentence. But go ahead.
Anyway, I'm trying to remember the one. I think I had him doing that song from the Gambler. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Yeah.
Anyway, he sued us for it. And finally he dropped the lawsuit because we kind of apologized to an editorial, and then he wanted the original. I wouldn't send it to him.
Really?
Yeah, But I don't think
he probably wasn't going to pay you for it either.
Well, he probably wasn't. No. But they funny thing is they don't. A lot of them don't offer you any money. One of the nicest guys. Was who was the former finance minister that died? Christine Elliott's husband, Jim
Flaherty.
Jim Flaherty. He sent me a letter requesting a cartoon. The only one I ever really drew on him, and I sent it to him. He sent me back the most loveliest letter thanking me for it, and that I've kept. And I said, it's, the first cartoon, Ben Wicks had a thing that first cartoon he drew on any politician was free if they wanted it. After that, they had to pay the going rate. So I adapted that, and that's what I would do.
So that was one, say hi to your dog for me. That was.
Does that all the time. Hey. Diane.
Was that the only time that anybody threatened to sue you?
No. We had a few threats. The entire Italian community once. The city of Hamilton once. The only one that really sued us was this guy Arnold Miners. That he was a black advocate kind of. What was he? He was a guy that was training Crown attorneys for Ontario. Mm-hmm. And Christy Blatchford did a really great piece on him for something that he did that was totally bad. And I did the cartoon, and he sued over the article and the cartoon. And it went right to court, and he lost. He had to pay us $1 million, which he never did, and he left town.
Anybody ever?
The only one.
Anybody ever threaten you bodily harm?
Yeah, I had a couple of those. Yeah, one of them, guy called up. Then we suddenly became good friends. This is really stupid. I got talking to him on the phone, and he finally said, "You're not a bad guy after all." Next thing you know, he was calling me about once every 6 months just to talk to me about what was going on in the world. It was sort of weird.
One of the funniest, and if I had been on the receiving end of it, would have found it to be painfully embarrassing. Cartoons that you used to draw. The former prime minister, was Joe Clark prime minister? He wasn't he for an hour or something?
Who?
Joe Clark?
Oh yeah, he was prime minister. Yeah,
I can't keep forgetting.
Great guy too. Great guy.
Yeah, but you drew Joe Clark with a pair of mittens attached to a string.
Yeah. because he lost his luggage.
He lost
He
his
lost
luggage.
his luggage in Africa or in Israel.
Oh,
And I drew the cartoon. I just thought, how do you depict somebody losing something? And the mitts came to mind, and I drew it, and it stuck with him. And I remember him, he was a guest speaker at one of our Canadian cartoonist conventions, and he got up and he said, "You've no idea what it's like getting up every morning and opening the paper and seeing those goddamn mittens," which was, he had a great sense of humor, and he really was a delightful guy.
Talk to me about you. You've drawn two generations of Trudeaus, Pierre Elliott Trudeau,
Yeah.
and most currently, of course, Justin Trudeau. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, I had this sort of admiration for the old man, although I didn't like his policies, especially, I think he spent too much time on the Constitution and not enough on the economy. Brilliant guy. And he had a great sense of humor as well. I met Justin a few years ago, and he said that when I introduced myself, he said, "Oh, my dad read you all the time," which struck me as kind of funny. I guess he was interested in the Sun because we were the one paper that was attacking him all the time. Yeah. And when I saw Justin introduce Kennedy to the leader of the Liberal Party in Montreal a few years ago, as soon as he got up and spoke, I knew he was going to be running for president or for prime minister. And sure enough, he did. And he's a very charismatic, delightful guy. I just think he's a terrible prime minister.
And what kind of cartoons have you done about him that stick out in your mind?
I just did one recently. I had this huge, voluptuous, fat woman sitting on him and saying to him,
okay,
she's got a label saying inflation, and she's saying, "I knew your daddy."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
he's.
Did you take a run at him during the whole blackface Bollywood thing?
Oh, I know. I did I did something on that too. That, to me, that got a little out of hand because I guess I grew up in that damn era where I think I was in a minstrel show once. They used to have those minstrel shows.
Yeah.
And I think they just made a little too. Sure, it's bad. Never do it now, but it's went a little too far, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're 86 years old or 85 years old, and happy birthday.
Tomorrow.
Yes, happy birthday. And Justin's only in his 40s.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, no, he should know. He should have known better, probably. Yeah, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What about the provincial premiers? You spent a lot of ink on Mike Harris. Mike Harris has tons of your cartoons hanging in his house.
Oh, I like Mike a lot. One of the reasons I liked him was I was having a cartoonist convention in Toronto. I think it was in 2000 or whatever, or 99. I can't remember. I was president of the Cartoonist Association, and I was trying to get Jean Chrétien to come as a guest speaker. And what's his name? Mike Smith got kind of involved, and things got all messed up. And I was desperate, and I phoned somebody up in Mike Harris's office, and I said, "You think we can get this?" Is right after he had just won the election. Can we get him as a guest speaker? And he said, "I'll let you know tomorrow." He called me back and said, "You got him." And I never forgot that. I thought, here's a guy who was busy going into a transition in government and everything, took time with his wife to come down to the Cartoonist Convention and be a guest. It was really great. Drew him. My favorite was Bill Davis, whom I admired and loved. He was a great guy. And I did probably more cartoons on Bill Davis than anybody,
Right.
Brampton Billy.
Dalton McGuinty, and then followed by Kathleen Wynne.
Oh, yeah.
They had their share of missteps, as it were, over the years, which you took advantage.
Oh, yeah. Well, McGuinty, I didn't like drawing him for some reason, but I loved drawing Wynne. She had the glasses and the teeth and everything, and she was just great to draw. So I think I did some of my best work on Kathleen Wynne.
I'm not going to take that out of context.
Ted Woloshyn returns in a moment.
Okay, let's head down to Tom's Place, 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market for the finest in men's clothing. Well, Tom, we're in a bit of a lockdown right now. How is this affecting your business, your hours, and the amount of people you can let into your store?
Well, the Tom's Place, a lot of people might not know, it's quite a big store. It's made out of 6 individual buildings, and it allows over 100 people to come to our store, which we don't have to worry about our capacity. But yes, we have shortened our business hours. We shortened our business hour as the following. From Monday to Friday, we're open from 11 to 5, Saturday from 10 to 5, and on Sunday from 12 to 5. But we're still open 7 days a week. And we have fabulous, fantastic corduroy pants, 3-for-1 sport jackets. We have wool top coats as low as $249. We have warm sweaters that are 2-for-1. We have a lot of merchandise that we need to clear before we allow the new merchandise to come into our store. So please remember, our store hours are shorter, but we're still open 7 days a week. We're here to serve you, and we make sure that we keep up with all the protocols. Thank you very kindly. See you at Tom's Place. Remember the 2-for-1 sweaters, 3-for-1 sport jacket, 3 fabulous scarves for $50. You can't get better.
You got it. Tom's Place, 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Hey, let me take a moment to tell you about my friends at Helenda's. They are the meat people. You know, I've been a fan of their products for years now, and without a doubt, they make some of the best sausage in Ontario. They are multiple award winners, having captured the Ontario's finest meat competition's coveted Award of Excellence on 3 occasions, in addition to dozens of individual product awards. Helenda's has also received the Grand Champion ribbon at the past 2 Royal Winter Fair's ready-to-eat meat snack competitions. So whether you're preparing a charcuterie board or a full-blown sit-down dinner for your friends or family, you'll find Helenda's award-winning products at fine meat shops throughout the province, now including selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland stores, along with their 7 Helenda's locations. Their barbecued kielbasa is my favorite. On a fresh bun with horseradish, it is out of this world. But don't just take my word for it. Judge for yourself. On your barbecue, in your kitchen, or straight from the refrigerator. Helenda's, the way sausage should taste.
Now back to Ted Woloshyn.
Andy Donato, the world-renowned, award-winning cartoonist. Is there a cartoon character, or is there a character at least that you can't seem to get to put down on paper? You can't make him look like he should, or she? Yeah,
there have been. Actually, one of them, I'm trying to remember, actually, Justin caused me a lot of problems originally, but as Ben Wicks once said, that eventually they begin to look like the caricature. So it makes it a lot easier. He gave me a lot of trouble. There were a few others. One of them, I'm trying to remember way back in the early days of the Mulroney was never a problem, and I always enjoyed drawing him. But I can't think of them offhand right now. But there were a few that. David Peterson was a classic. I struggled with him, and then finally. It was something in his eyes that I did, and his little cleft chin, and I got it to work, and I finally, had no problem with him. And I got very friendly with him. He was another great guy.
What about world leaders? Who were some of the most fun you had with over the years?
A guy named Donald Trump. You ever heard of him?
I was going to save him for the last, but go ahead.
I thought he was. I remember the first cartoon I drew on him was just a great big ass with hair on his head. It said the guy saying Donald Trump certainly is different. Well, he was different, all right. Reagan was great to draw because he had all those wrinkles and lines in his face, and he had the hair. Clinton was tough to do too because he's a good-looking guy. I'm trying to think who else I had. Jerry Ford I found him difficult as well. Nixon was a classic. He was great to draw.
Sure.
5 o'clock shadow and all. And there were others, Brezhnev, remember the Russian leader?
We had the one eyebrow.
With a big eyebrow, his hair. He was great to do. And Maggie Thatcher was great to do as well.
Yeah.
There were a lot of.
What about religious leaders? I mean, other than the aforementioned, we mentioned the aforementioned, at least Ayatollah Khomeini being one of them. Well, you look at him as more of a despot, but he was a religious leader. Do you tend to stay away from that? Do you shy away at all?
I've drawn the Pope a few times, all the popes actually.
So you don't care if you're going to burn in hell?
No, I don't care if I'm burning. I don't think I will. That's a story. I always love that. I forget. I think he's an Irish comedian who was doing when he was a kid going to Catholic school, and they would say to him, "If you are bad, you will burn in hell forever, but God loves you."
I was going to ask you what advice you might have for anybody who wants to become a cartoonist, but instead of doing that, I'm going to read a quote of yours. Mm-hmm. A cartoonist is like a blind javelin thrower. He's not too accurate, but he sure gets the attention of the spectators.
That's right. That was my old friend Dick Loker from the Chicago Tribune said that to me one day. His other expression was, if you're taking flack, you're over the target.
Yeah.
Which is so true.
Because you're not really, you're not trying to draw somebody's caricature. You're drawing a character, as it were.
Yeah, and you're fitting him into a story that's going around him. That's
Yeah. But in addition to being this great cartoonist, and I'm so glad to see that you're still drawing at least once a week.
Yeah,
you're spending a lot of time in your studio, but you're not doing cartoons. You are an artist. You are a painter, a landscape painter.
Yeah.
I think you describe yourself as your painting is bent realism.
Oh yeah. What's happened there is that I was always doing very realistic paintings. I one day got this idea, and I drew a couple of them up, and people, really sort of liked them and would comment on them. And I thought maybe I'd do some more of them. So I kept doing it. And what I would do is I call it bent. My agent actually called it bent realism. I would draw something very realistic as far as every brick and color and peeling paint and stuff, but I would distort them and twist them. And it gave the painting a lot of character, at least more character than just like almost looking photographic.
Yeah, some of them they look as though these houses that you paint, for example, look as though they're in the middle of a typhoon or a cyclone.
Yeah, that's right. And I still do it. I still draw a few of them that way. I've just come up with another way of doing my landscapes that I really enjoy doing. It's more on the realistic side, but not quite as detailed. I'm just trying to simplify them, so that when you look at it, you know exactly what it is, and just trying to create more feeling in the painting. Mm-hmm. I figure that to me, painting and art is all feeling. You look at something, you feel cold, you feel hot, you feel the wind, feel the sun, whatever.
Where can people go to see Andy DiNardo, the artist's work? Are you hanging in a gallery somewhere?
Yeah, I've just recently joined a gallery out in Mississauga called the Harbor Gallery. It's on Lake Shore. Yeah, it's I guess that's Port Credit, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, yep. And terrific people that run the gallery. They've it's a big, beautiful gallery as well. And they've got 20. They must have 30 of my paintings out there right now. Maybe 40 paintings.
What's the gallery called again?
Harbor Gallery.
Harbor Gallery. HABOUR. And if people wanted to get a hold of some of your cartoons that you've done over the years, are they available as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't sell the cartoons too much because it's I'm supposed to be able to sell my paintings because they're inventory. The cartoons are done. I more or less I just give them away. as a charity thing if I have to.
Well, I know you were really generous over the 20-something years that I did a golf tournament. You used to bring handfuls of cartoons every year and helped us raise an awful lot of money for the Children's Breakfast Club, for which we were eternally grateful. Since we mentioned Mississauga and Port Credit, the unbelievable Hazel McCallion, who turns 101, by the way, on Valentine's Day. How many times have you painted Hazel?
I think I've drawn her twice, as I recall. And I'm trying to remember. I think the first time I drew her was when she had the car accident. Remember? And I remember, doing a thing that that she wasn't the truck that hit the guy; it was her that hit him or something. I can't remember the cartoon, but she was just such a delight to draw. I mean, I used to joke around and say I almost ran out of ink doing all those lines in her face. She had that great face to draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you show Diane, your wife? Do you show her the cartoons before you submit them, and if so, has she or anybody else ever said you can't? Don't.
Oh yeah. Oh God, she's my best critic.
Yeah, she's an artist as well.
Anybody? Yeah, she's an artist. She's in her studio, standing about 8 feet from me or 6 feet, keeping our distance, listening to every word I'm saying, and she has on occasion said they're not going to run that. And she was right on at least one occasion that I could recall. But she...
Do you recall what that was that they wouldn't run? Because you can tell me.
I know I can tell you. I'm trying to remember. Probably had something to do with... I think I know what it was. I had a virus, COVID-19. We draw them with the spikes sticking out of them.
Yeah.
And I had it arriving in Canada and wearing one of those little white hats that Muslims wear. And they would not run that.
Yeah.
So she spotted that pretty quick. Anyway.
Yeah, good catch.
I mean, I said, they wear those things. They're stopping flights from India. People in India wear that type of hat.
Yeah.
They still wouldn't run it.
God, it's been such a pleasure spending time with you over the years. And I have to apologize to you personally and publicly. Several years ago, you remembered at one of the great golf courses in Toronto, and you invited me to be your partner at a member guest tournament. I'm not that great a golfer to begin with, but that day, I must have had early COVID, like from 10 years earlier or something. So I played like I was using somebody else's hands and someone else's feet were attached to mine. So I apologize for that. It must have been the worst round of golf in your life.
I just forgot about it last week. It took me a long time. Yeah.
And now I had to bring it back up.
It was so funny because you recall, you got a new pair of shoes out of it, I think.
Yes.
A gift. And we had a great time with the meal and everything else.
Yeah.
But I remember all these side bets we made with all these guys for $10 each. And I think we had about 15 of them. And we lost every one. And the only thing, we tied one, so we didn't have to pay on that one.
And that's the real reason why Andy Donato has not retired even at the age of 85. Because I nearly bankrupted him. My friend, it's been such a great pleasure to not only have been one of your characters in a couple of your cartoons, but to have collected a number of them and to have seen so many of them, and to chat with you and to play golf with you. And I thank you so much for taking the time, and I wish you the best on your 85th, and may you outlive Hazel.
Hey, thank you, Ted. It was a pleasure. Good seeing you again.
Oh, go.
Okay.
Thank you all for listening. Join us again next week.
The Ted Wallisham Podcast has been brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And Helenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Helenda's, the way sausage should taste. The Ted Wallisham Podcast is produced by Joey Roselli. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. I'm Becky Coles. Submit your questions and comments to ted@twmedia.ca.